After the great flood, the waters receded from the face of the earth, and from the ark, that refuge of life, Noah and his family emerged, the new seed to repopulate the world. And the Lord blessed them, commanding them to be fruitful and multiply, filling the earth. And so it came to pass. Noah's descendants grew in number, becoming families, then clans and tribes. The earth began to be inhabited again, and as the generations passed, a movement began. They looked to the east toward the rising sun, and to there they migrated, a great mass of humanity, moving across the vast landscapes that stretched before them. Journey after journey, temporary settlement after temporary settlement, until they arrived at a flat land, vast and inviting. The plain of Shinar, a region that would come to be known as the land of Mesopotamia. There they decided to dwell. There they laid down their roots, and behold, what was remarkable in this initial time. All the peoples of the earth, all the descendants of Noah gathered in that region spoke one single language. Their words were understood by all. Their thoughts were shared without barrier. A linguistic and cultural unity that granted them a singular power. They could collaborate effortlessly. They could plan together. They could dream the same dream. This singular unity, this ability to communicate perfectly, generated a shared ambition, a desire to accomplish something great, something that would mark their presence in the history of the new earth. They looked at one another and saw the same idea germinating in every mind. With one voice, they could propose, they could organize, they could execute deeds that, alone, would be impossible. This perfect union was the prelude. The stage was set. Humanity, united by a single language and purpose, was ready to undertake a project of monumental proportions. And after the waters had receded and the land had dried, the descendants of the ark, the families of Noah, began to multiply upon the face of the earth. They became numerous, a growing people, and moved by an instinct for unity or perhaps a purpose yet unrevealed, they migrated together towards the east. Their journey led them to a fertile valley, a vast plain known as Shinar, a land we today recognize as part of ancient and mighty Mesopotamia. There they found a suitable place to settle, to build lives and communities. And on that plain of Shinar, something remarkable happened. They were united, not just by common descent, but by an even stronger bond, one language, one voice that resonated in every conversation, every plan, every shared dream. And a single culture flourished. Among them, habits, beliefs, ways of living interwoven into an unbreakable social fabric. This unity of language and purpose generated a colossal force, a confidence in their own abilities, a vision of human grandeur. It was in this context of unity and growing power that an audacious decision germinated in their hearts. It wasn't enough just to inhabit the land. It wasn't enough just to multiply. They wanted more. They wanted to leave an indelible mark, a testament to their presence and their strength. And so, an agreement was sealed, a firm resolution taken by that whole congregation of peoples. They decided that they would erect not just a cluster of houses, but a city that would be the center of their world, the pinnacle of their nascent civilization. And at the heart of this city, they planned an unprecedented structure, a tower. This tower would not be a simple building. Their intention was for the top of this colossal edifice to reach the very heavens, a dizzying aspiration, revealing the magnitude of their ambition. And what was the motivation behind such a monumental undertaking, such a bold feat? Two main reasons fueled this decision. First, there was the ardent desire, the deep human need, to make a name for themselves. They wanted recognition, they wanted glory, they wanted their existence and their unity, their power to be remembered by all future generations. They didn't want to be an anonymous people, lost in the vastness of time and earth. They wanted to establish their identity, their reputation, their own fame through this gigantic work. And second, and perhaps equally crucial in their eyes, they actively sought to avoid something. They wanted to avoid being scattered across the earth. They didn't want to spread out, to dilute themselves, to lose the unity they valued so much and which gave them such strength. The city and the tower would be a focal point, a center of gravity that would keep them united, concentrated on their own greatness and their own designs. A decision born of unity, but perhaps fueled by an excessive confidence in isolated human capability. And so, the work began. After the decision to unite and erect this monumental city and tower, the plain of Shinar vibrated with a new energy, no longer hesitant nomads, monks, but a people focused on a single, grand purpose. They did not build with simple stones, as in other lands and times. No, the knowledge of that era and region offered them more advanced methods. They dedicated themselves to the art of pottery and building. They shaped the earth, the soft and abundant clay of Mesopotamia, molding it into uniform blocks. And then, in blazing furnaces, in crackling kilns under the sun and human effort, they fired these blocks. They transformed fragile clay into hard, resistant, permanent bricks. Bricks baked in fire, a technique that ensured solidity and durability far beyond simple sun-dried adobe constructions. Imagine the heat of those furnaces, the smell of the smoke, the incessant labor of preparing and transporting these thousands, perhaps millions, of fire-hardened bricks. And to join these pieces, they did not use clay or lime mortar. Employing the wisdom of the land where they lived, they used bitumen, a black, viscous material that seeped from the ground in certain areas, like a natural asphalt, hot and sticky when worked. Bitumen served as a powerful cement, binding the bricks together with incredible strength, making the structure cohesive and resistant. It was the construction technique of Mesopotamia itself being applied on its largest scale. The foundation of this tower, the substance that kept it standing, was the earth itself, transformed and used with ingenuity. And what form this tower was taking? The source suggests to us an inspiration from other majestic constructions in the region. From the Babylonian ziggurats, those imposing step towers that rose from the ground towards the sky, like the famous Etemenanki in Babel, whose name meant Temple of the Foundation of Heaven and Earth. Did the tower they were building imitate this stepped form? Rising platform upon platform, each level smaller than the previous one, culminating in a summit that seemed to touch the clouds. This architecture was not just functional, it was symbolic. It represented ascension, the desire to go higher, to reach the divine or to equal it, to build a ladder to paradise itself by human hands. Every brick laid, every layer of bitumen applied, was a step in this ambitious journey, a physical testimony to the unity, the skill, and the audacity of this people who refused to be scattered. The tower grew, a giant of baked bricks and bitumen challenging the very celestial vault. But what did that imposing structure represent? What did it mean to erect such a monument on the face of the earth? That tower was not just stone upon stone, brick upon brick. It was the personification of an ambition that burned in human hearts after the Great Flood. A thirst to reach the unreachable, to touch the heavens with their own hands, by their own power and ingenuity. The structure ascended, a silent challenge, yet audible in the spiritual realm. It was man saying, "We can do this. We can get there. Not by faith, not by submission, but by our combined strength, by our intelligence, by the fruits of our labor." That tower, perhaps inspired by the great elevations that dotted the lands of Mesopotamia, the ziggurats dedicated to deities, was here dedicated to themselves, to the name they wanted to make, the glory they sought for humanity, separate, independent, from the glory due to the Creator. It represented inflated arrogance, the belief that they could ascend to the divine realm, or at least lessen the distance to Him, without treading the path He Himself had established. It was the pursuit of the divine, not through humble pleading, but through grand and proud construction. It was a symbol of the human attempt to control their own destiny, to create their own security and unity, without taking into account the divine designs for dispersion and for filling the earth. The tower was a cry of independence, a declaration of self-sufficiency. In it, the peoples saw the chance to consolidate their power, to forge an unbreakable unity centered on themselves and their earthly achievements. It was a monument to human will, raised against the divine will, a landmark of boundless ambition and the reluctance to follow the paths laid out by the one who created all things. That building was not just a physical construction, it was the materialization of a dangerous spiritual disposition, a search for a great name on earth, to the detriment of the glorious name in heaven. It was the very essence of human pride rising against the firmament, and the divine gaze rested upon the plain where men toiled tirelessly. From His eternal dwelling, the Creator watched the city as it grew, and the tower that boldly rose towards the heavens. He saw the astonishing strength residing within that unity. A single language resonated among them. A single thought moved them. A single purpose united them in every brick, in every layer of bitumen. God perceived the magnitude of what was possible for humanity when they acted in complete harmony and with one voice. Great deeds, extraordinary ones, that previously seemed unattainable, now manifested before his eyes. But alas, sorrow hung over this realization. This immense capability, this powerful unity, could easily become a fatal deviation, a force that would draw them away from his original designs. Far from the path he had laid out for them in the vastness of the earth they were meant to inhabit, the Lord saw that this unity could lead them to trust only in their own strength and wisdom, to depend solely on their hands and their cunning to build their future. Forgetting the one who gave them life in the very land they walked upon, was necessary to intervene. It was necessary to alter the course of this audacity that, though born of unity, could lead them to perdition. Then, a decision was made in the celestial realms to prevent this limitless capability from diverting them forever, to halt the construction that symbolized their boundless self-reliance. God decided to act upon that which gave them so much power, their communication, their shared language. It was time to confuse the bond that united them so firmly, to break the harmony of their voices, and so it came to pass. Suddenly, the sound that came from one's mouth was not understood by the other's ear. Familiar words became strange and meaningless noises. The order to bring more bitumen was heard as an unintelligible cry. The request for more bricks sounded like a foreign and unknown tongue. Confusion spread like a dense fog over the work. Understanding between father and son, between brother and brother, between builder and builder, simply vanished. And then, the gaze of the Most High fell upon that work. God saw the unity, the strength born of that single language, of that single purpose. He perceived that such a union, focused on self-exaltation, could divert humanity from his plan, to spread across the earth. No, this was not the divine path. A sovereign decision was then manifested. The single language, the link of that rebellious union, would be broken. Suddenly, on the tower's construction sites in the streets, a strange phenomenon began. Voices that had understood each other now emitted disjointed, unintelligible sounds. The master builder's call, the request for materials, everything was lost in a sea of nonsensical sounds. Communication, the basis of the work, crumbled instantly. The great project stopped. The work ceased. The symphony of united voices gave way to a chaotic chorus of strange sounds, and without being able to work together any longer, without understanding each other, staying there lost all meaning. The intent to avoid dispersion, the very reason for the construction, was divinely thwarted. God's hand ensured dispersion, not by their will, but as a direct consequence of his intervention. And so, the compact crowd began to separate. Those who found some linguistic affinity grouped together and departed, seeking new horizons, new lands. The tower, abandoned and incomplete, and was left behind. A silent monument, a perpetual reminder of the futility of human ambition when it defies the divine order. A mute testimony that the projects of men, tainted by pride, can crumble before the power of the Creator. The story of the Tower of Babel echoes as a solemn warning. It reflects the temptation to trust in oneself, in one's own capacity and unity, to build one's kingdom, to achieve greatness, to make a name without reference to the Most High. But the lesson is clear. True strength, peace, fulfillment, lies not in the arrogance of trying to reach the heavens by our own means, but in the humility of recognizing our dependence on God. Obedience to His ways, even when they scatter us, is the only safe path. May the lesson of the unfinished tower inspire us to choose humility over pride, obedience over self-sufficiency, the divine will over our own desires. And so, we reach the end of another journey through the sacred scriptures. If this message has touched your heart and enlightened your understanding, we ask that you leave your like, your comment, and, above all, that you subscribe to support our project of carrying the word forward. May the peace of the Lord be with you, and may God richly bless your life.